Yo, yo, yo. Let's talk about talent. On the front page of my YouTube, I think I have a video about it, and I kind of go in and out about like certain aspects of talent. And so I might repeat myself a little bit here, but I wanted to kind of do it as a free form subject, like I've done some of my previous videos, and just kind of talk about it in a way that I think might be fascinating for fun or for many of you guys, many of folks who are just curious. Um, So one of the things that I will say about the idea of talent, I'm not convinced that there is something that without this you are truly incapable of achieving great skill. I think that a lot of what we do as artists in this industry and outside of it can absolutely be taught and earned, and with some good practice and training, you can absolutely accomplish some incredibly great feats of skill. But what can talent actually be then? What is it potentially? And for me, it's just your natural aptitudes and your natural skills that you just have for who you are as a person existing in this world. And it doesn't have to be any more than that. And I think sometimes people get caught up in this idea of talent because they're like, if I don't have the talent, then I am incapable of accomplishing certain goals and ambitions. When in reality, it's absolutely within your skills to most likely become as good as you'd like to be in this art world, relatively speaking. I don't know if there's going to ever be a perfect mix or match of an artist's skill that you'll see easily replicable, but it possibly could be. But what I'm really getting at is that at the end of the day, these types of skills that I'm kind of, or sorry, these types of talents is not usually what separates the real skill that people tend to have that really help them dominate these industries. And so for me, when I think about talent and I think about why people get hung up on it, it's just the rationale in my mind is that people just want to make sure that there's just something else that they're just not capable of doing. And because of that, that's partly why they have all these issues in their way, you know? It's like another reason to give yourself to not to draw because you don't have those talents. And I think that's a huge mistake. So for instance, with me, you know, my greatest talent that I can almost certainly say I have with some pretty good confidence, simply put, is just my ability to really stick the landing on whatever I want to try to do. I'm pretty resilient and I'm pretty committed to a lot of stuff that I typically want to do in my life. Not with everything, some things fall on the wayside, but most things, once I've decided to do them, I tend to go pretty hard and I tend to really try to do my best, you know? And that has helped me in so many instances in my entire life. And that to me is an absolute like not skill, but like a natural talent that I have, which is just this kind of resilience and this ability to kind of really stick the landing, you know? Specifically, like just that grit. And you might think, well, that's not really a talent. It seems like some sort of good discipline and whatever. But that's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't know if people have discipline just built into them, is ultimately what I'm commenting on. Because I've taught so many people throughout my entire life, and it's just becoming more clear that there isn't this obvious take that everybody can just be disciplined easily. Like it's similar to me in the same vein as like I'll never be 6'4", you know? Like I just may never be a tall person, right? Unless we start to get into bionic limbs. But you get what I'm saying? Like I am always going to be 5'9", right? And many of you guys might not even realize that. I might think I'm much taller than that, especially because of how I sound. I sound like I'm a tall person. I'm just average height. I'm just 5'9", and to me, that's just not something I can change. And so part of what I'm getting at is like I've taught many people who just may never be disciplined. Like it's in their bones to kind of really resist it. And so why then would I be like, hey, listen, anybody can do it? But like if discipline is such a major feature um in how to accomplish these things, and it's hard for me to even have that, like what hope do I have? Well, it's the same perspective that I have again with the height thing, where there's um, basketball players. I forget his name, like Bugs or something like this. I forget exactly what he was, but he was shorter than I am, and he was a professional NBA player. You know, and for what it's worth, there's lots of quote unquote short basketball players. I think Allen Iverson was also relatively short. I think he was 6'1", 2, which you're like, oh, that's still pretty tall. Yeah, not for basketball. You're dealing with people that are like 7 feet tall. Like it's a huge difference in height, right? But you'd have these like people like that are not quote unquote tall, but are incredibly skilled basketball players, right? For the sport of basketball. So then what is the equivalent for like lack of discipline if like you don't have this specific aptitude? Well, this is what I tend to give people, like alternative strategies of like changing what is the most important feature of getting something done. um, Potentially a lot of times people will be more disciplined in a group setting, so typically finding a group of other artists that are way more motivated than you are, but because you guys are friends and as a proxy of just hanging out with one another, which typically is a really useful thing, you start to be kind of disciplined as a group. So forming like study groups and such is actually an incredibly smart idea. I mean, if you think about like us as a species, we're very tribal in nature, so it makes perfect sense to me to just embrace that. But this is kind of like to the heart of what I'm saying about this idea of talent. Like you may have no talent in this thing, you know? You may have really low observational skills. Like you may not be able to observe the world as effectively as someone like Kim Jong-ji, who was, in my mind, one of the most master observers on this planet, you know? Rest in peace. But that was his thing, and he just doubled down on it. And then there's other artists who are way more sensitive to colors than I am, for instance. I've slowly been getting to earn that. But I have met people that are like absolutely, it's just mastermind artists that just get color at a level that I just will never understand. And it's been really a fun journey for me to try to get better at colors. And let me say this: I still am a big fan of just straight dark black and white imagery. Like it's my favorite type of imagery. I love it deeply. I love black and white and uh, hard contrast visuals. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's been really a wonderful um, thing to kind of just explore something that I just don't think I have a natural aptitude for. But through proxy of training and practice, that I can make up the difference by adding my own flavor, adding my own spice to what I think could be cool colored imagery, you know, through just straight pure training and sticking to where I think my strengths are, you know? And if I don't have those strengths, then I will respect that and try to train those weaknesses, knowing full well that it's going to be an incredibly uphill battle and utilizing the very strength that I absolutely do have, which is that resolve that helps me through this. This is why I feel like I can get good at so many different things. It's because I do not let it get to me when I do a very poor job. And I believe that a lot of folks, whenever you guys are trying to find your specific aptitudes, it does make sense to kind of double down on them. But it also makes perfect sense to me to respect that it is a challenge and it is an aptitude that you do want to have, like these, like I said, short basketball players that might not um, have the natural height advantage that some of their colleagues have, but they love basketball, so it doesn't matter to them. So they'll train and make themselves valuable in other ways. Like Stephen Curry is not necessarily an incredibly tall player as well, but he is clearly valuable in the scope of uh, just making points, like shooting these 3-pointers out here. So if you ever get caught up in this thought of like you see people that look like they just have talents that you just won't have, and you don't have off the top of the out of the gate, like the genetic lottery, just know that that's probably true, and you may never have it, and you may never acquire that type of gift, you know. But it's okay, and it's okay to respect your limits, but don't let those limits kind of define what you ultimately can do then, you know? And you might be like, well, what if I'm blind? Then what? Like, obviously, that's a huge disadvantage to be a painter. Well, there are people who really, really want to be artists, even though they're blind. They love the art of it and found ways to be artists. Some of them maybe realize, maybe visual arts is not what I want to do, but musical arts, you know what I mean? They found another way to be super creative and they doubled down on it. I look at a lot of artwork every freaking day. I'm always trying to learn from freaking crazy epic artists all the time. And I'm absolutely floored by how many people make such incredible art. I can see why people feel overwhelmed. I get it because I'm like looking at the same stuff, guys, and it's so impressive. But I feel just completely different. Like I'm like, man, this just makes me understand that there are truly so many ways to make incredible art. I read on AI all the time, and like this is the biggest flaw of quote unquote AI art is that a lot of AI art can only be fueled by a large sample size and large models that they are basically scraping from. But there's people like myself and others that are just consistently making type of art that you just never seen before because we aren't in it for making one really cool image. We're typically like a lot of artists like myself are like, this is what we love. And we are hunting for some of the most impressive and interesting imagery by our peers that then inspire us to create incredibly fascinating images that then inspire another group of artists. Like we're actively fishing and hunting and respecting the process and learning from each other in a more meaningful and profound way that allows us to keep visually innovating for one another. It's a fucking awesome industry, man. It's my favorite. But yeah, what I don't do is like, well, that person clearly knows how to do this better than me. they must have some sort of talents that I just don't have access to. Like, no matter how hard I try, I can't do that thing that they just did. And yeah, it's just goes back to kind of my other video that I did the other day about confidence. It's like, oh man, like you don't want to keep finding reasons to just be mad at yourself and be mean to yourself, you know? You want to try to be as respectful and as thoughtful as humanly possible to yourself and to others, so that way you do not get trapped in this psychological, you know, squid game in your mind, right? Where you're just constantly talking shit, dude. And again, I think that there are people that are absolutely, quote unquote, talented. They have just better aptitudes than you and I. They might even be savants at some level. And people that are absolutely like at that stage, like they are savants, well, those are exceptions to the rule, not the rule, you know? And so I usually don't even get hung up on that. I'm always just mesmerized by that. I'm not so much like, oh, clearly if I'm not that, then I can't make it out here. Like, that's not the perspective I typically have, you know, whenever I'm trying to get inspired. The opposite, I usually am like, damn, dude, what? How can I do that? That's usually what happens. I'm just like, how the hell do I do that for me? And so, yeah, I mean, listen, folks, I think that it is totally reasonable to be frustrated that you don't have certain aspects in your abilities, but I don't think you need to like lose sleep over it either. I think that it's just one of those things that we've been given a lot of things in this world, and you should be grateful for what you do have, and not so envious of what you don't have, right? There's that saying, comparison is the thief of joy, and I think that's a big one. But let me be 100% clear. I do believe people are different and people have different skills and abilities. These are just facts, you know what I mean? And respecting these types of things, I think, are truly healthy. And then also trying to find ways to make yourself essentially more valuable, doubling down on your very strengths, the things that you think make you a badass. 100%. And again, I'm not like an environment artist, but I've been painting a lot of environments lately. I've been trying to get good at this, y'all. And so I just train. And I don't think that it's not in me to become good at this either, for what it's worth. What I actually think is happening is that just my interest level is pretty low. I don't think it has anything to do with any kind of potential lack of aptitude here. I think it actually has a lot more to do just with specifically my interests. At the end of the day, when I painted, when I first started out, I just love character design. And I still do. Like, that's still my bread and butter. Like, I love this type of stuff very much, you know? And so to me, that I think that's ultimately why I have such a breadth of work that is aggressively character driven. But it's not because I don't like environment art. I actually love environment art. I love a lot of environment artists, you know, and what they do. It's very inspiring. I get super pumped. But I just start drawing like a monster with like 17 arms. It's just like my thing. Anyway, I think this is good for now. Hope you guys. Oh, what? NVIDIA be out here saying like, "The fuck you painting, dude? Taking some juice to get this painting done." Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this talk. It's kind of a medium-sized talk. Again, running late. We're moving, so because of moving, like literally, I was working and my wife just grabbed my test chair literally away from me, insulted. And so I don't have a desk chair right now. It's so funny. Anyway, gonna stop from here. And I'll see you guys in my next video, man. Keep up the good work, guys. I know some of you guys are painting alongside me. Love you, man. Keep doing it. Cheers.